Okay, I think we should be live.
I think we are live.
We're live! Yay! Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pummel and Need's first ever live stream. So, this is very exciting. And also, please excuse us if anything goes a bit Pete Tong in terms of technology, because we're kind of new to all of this. But thank you so much if you're joining us. And basically, what we're going to do in the next hour is we're going to have a very special guest who we're going to talk to about various topics, yeah, to do with self care, which is what this episode is about. It's all about self care. Then we're going to do a little demonstration, massage demonstration. And in this episode, we're going to focus on the lower back, which a lot of people struggle with, especially when they're sitting at a desk. And so we'll do a little massage, self massage demo and a few stretches. And I know Kate, our guest, who I'll tell you a little bit about in a minute, has been struggling with her lower back. So we're going to do that. And then at the end, you will have a chance to ask any questions to either our special guest or us at Pummel and Need, myself and Claire. So you'll see there's a little comments feed, and you can ask any question as it comes to you throughout the stream, and we'll do our very best to answer that at the end. So I think you heard me say our very special guest today is Kate Bishop, and she is a life and well-being coach. And we feel really lucky actually to have her because she is certified with the prestigious Coaching Academy, which is basically one of the most renowned sort of academies for that field. And she has a vast amount of knowledge to do with coaching. She not only coaches individuals about confidence and work and careers and things like that, but she also runs various workshops, and she's worked with multiple organizations. I think the most recent one she actually worked with was the Prince's Trust, and she did a series of workshops for the Prince's Trust, and it was all about make your impact. So basically, confidence in the workplace. But as well as confidence in the workplace and career focus, she's got a huge kind of focus on well-being and mental health. So that's really feeds into self-care and everything we're going to be talking about today, which is so relevant at the moment. And lastly, I'll stop blabbering on in a minute. But lastly, you might see the little PayPal Pummel and Need floating below your screen. Now, this is just if you have any inclination to give a little donation. Don't worry at all if you can't. There's absolutely no obligation. It's going to be split three ways. So it's going to be split between ourselves at Pummel and Need, Kate Bishop Coaching, and also a nominated charity. And the nominated charity Kate actually chose for this week, and it is a charity called Calm. Now, I'd never heard of Calm before, but it's actually a men's health charity, and it's Men's Health Week this week, so it's very fitting. And this charity is really important because they really try and help men between the age of roughly 18 to 45 who are struggling with mental health issues. And unfortunately, the biggest killer for men between ages 18 to 45 is suicide, which I didn't realize, and that's just horrific. So Calm are really, really good and really trying to help this awful situation with the biggest killer of men. And it's a third of anything you donate today will go to Calm as well. So anyway, I'm gonna shut up now and say hello to Claire. Claire, how are you?
Hello. I'm good.
How are
How are you?
you?
Great.
How's your morning been?
Yes, good. Yeah, intermittent showers and sunshine. So great for the garden.
Yeah, it looks like it might piddle it down in a bit, which
Yeah.
is quite interesting if you're out and about. For people that don't know us, can you just explain roughly sort of what Pummel and me do, who we are, why we care about
Yeah.
self-care?
Absolutely. So myself and Lucinda set up Pummel and Need about 4 years ago. And what we do is we come into the workplace and offer massage. So either an express seated massage or a longer full body treatment to people who are hunched over their desk all day, working very hard and can't seem to find the time to fit in any sort of self-care outside of work. And it's been really, really rewarding. The feedback is always fantastic. You know, who doesn't love a massage? And while people really enjoy the massages, it also does prompt them to think about things like posture, self-care, taking breaks during the day, and maybe going to seek out a bit of help with things that might be niggling background pain for years that you learn to ignore, and it just becomes normal. And suddenly you go, oh, actually, why is my right shoulder up around my ear? Or why am I hunched over my desk so much? So yeah, that's what we were doing up until the lockdown in February. Now, of course, that's not really possible. So we've been doing online videos to help people with some self-massage and stretching techniques that you can do, whether you're at home or whether you're someone who is still working, but of course you can't have the contact that you would normally have with a massage therapist.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so yeah, both Claire and I haven't been able to work in our usual sense. We've been doing these sort of help working from home videos to try and help people with a bit of their own self-care. But I think it's a really interesting point that even when we're thinking about it, we're thinking we're not working, but the people that normally get treatments as well aren't getting that physical self-care that they normally get. So how does that impact people? And if you're used to getting physical therapies and if you're struggling with that sort of physical contact as a form of self-care, that's been something we've sort of thought about a lot. And hopefully our demonstrations can give people a little bit of a sense of that, being able to have that physical therapy. So we'll be talking about self-care, but how it impacts us as individuals and sort of the mental aspect of it. But without further ado, I think we should introduce Kate, our very special guest. Right, so bear with me as my technology skills. I'm just going to add Kate.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of your first live stream. It's really exciting. And actually, as Claire was talking, I've just done some shoulder rolls and adjusted my position and my posture.
Feeling a little bit looser after your shoulder rolls.
Definitely. I can't wait.
Oh, so Kate, I must admit, I'm a bit of a sort of I suppose novice, ignorant, don't really know much about coaching. So what sort of inspired you to get into coaching? How did you first find out about it? Tell us your backstory about how you got into it.
Yes, it's a quite an interesting one. I think well, a bit of my background is that I trained to be a performer years and years ago, and whilst I was performing, I also sort of fell into the events world a bit by accident and started to work with quite a small company and really helped build that up, that small business, to a thriving, fantastic company. But, as many of us find, I probably was there a few years too long. And whilst I was there, I went through sort of a bit of a personal crisis, as it were, and kind of hit close to rock bottom within myself. And during that time, I didn't really see any way out. I'd sort of, trained to be an actor, done lots of acting, but hadn't really got I think what quite a few people say, a proper degree behind me, and didn't really think I had anything to offer an employer. And then a colleague of mine said, "Oh, you should try this coaching course. Just go on it and see." And I, halfway through the first day, I thought, "Oh, actually, I really like this, and this is the one part of my job I really love doing." And I was coaching and mentoring quite a lot of the team within that business. And that evening, I met up with a great friend of mine, and over several gins, we decided that I would become a coach. And one very odd business plan later, I studied whilst I worked. and then set up my business. And that was about 3-4 years ago that I've been coaching continually. So it was sort of a bit of I love this, how do I do it all the time?
Yeah, and that's very admirable to be working and studying at the same time. I mean, that must have been pretty full on, but it's a reflection of how passionate, I suppose, you are for coaching, because you obviously discovered something that you really love. And I think the thing that comes across when looking at sort of what you do is you seem to, even though your career is career focused and it's about helping people with confidence, a lot of it is about helping people with their well-being and their mental health. So was that something that was very important for you to kind of involve that in your coaching? And I suppose what I'm asking is, how is it different to, say, counselling, coaching, but having that well-being and mental aspect to it?
Yeah, I think I'll take the counselling and coaching differences first, and then maybe come back to that, the point about why I'm doing well-being. I think people do get a bit confused, and sometimes there's a bit of a crossover between coaching and counselling, and I see them as quite separate things. And with counselling, it's much more about sort of, well, where are you now, and looking at your past to a certain extent and how that's affected you, and maybe readjusting your mindset, your habits, the wonders of cognitive behavioural therapy, that side of things, to move forward in a more positive way. Whereas the coaching that I do is much more, where are you now? Where do you want to be in sort of the slightly longer term future, and how do we get an action plan to get you there, as it were? And as long as that is aligned with your values and what's true to you, then it's going to work. If it's not aligned with your values, so if you want a career, then you don't really believe in the industry, for example, or the company that you work for, or you don't believe in the management, then chances are you're not going to want to remain there for much longer. So I think it's, coaching is much more future focused and action oriented, whereas counselling may be, a bit more emotional. I'm not saying that coaching doesn't go to the emotional side of things, because I think that's when you really deep dive, that's when the magic comes out and you get these wonderful self-realizations, and we realize that we're almost blocking ourselves just as much as everything else going on. And then when you asked about me and well-being, well, I think when I had that experience of being really depressed and really down for quite a long time, I also realized that quite a few friends of mine were experiencing that. And I thought, well, I don't want anyone to go through what I've gone through, what they've gone through. So I really do make sure, when I'm working with individual clients one-on-one, whether it's career progression, career change, or confidence coaching, what do you really want? Not what society's saying, not what you should be doing, but what do you want to do? And then when it comes to going into organizations and businesses, really focusing on well-being in the workplace, and which is why I love, what you do. It's looking at the physical well-being, and my sort of take is maybe a bit more of the emotional well-being side of things.
Yeah, no, that is, but I mean, so that perhaps is your sort of, your personal, so do you think that the well-being is more your personal sort of style that you put into it because it's so important to you? I don't know what it is, USP or whatever they call it, but you know what I mean? Is that normal to find in sort of life coaching, or would you say that the well-being and the mental health aspect is something that's, because it's so important to you, you've brought that into your coaching as a sort of extra, as something that is really special to you and your coaching technique?
I mean, I can't speak for every other coach, and I think all coaches have a specific focus, whether it's relationship, financial, or a bit like me, career and well-being. But it was very important for me to work with people who not only want to create a great career or really build up their confidence, but to be well whilst they're doing it. And my sort of strapline for my business is to make Mondays feel just as great as Fridays. We all feel great on Fridays because we used to be able to go to the pub and have a drink, or be able to go out and have a bit of fun time, or at least the weekend was there. And I was just coming across and working with a lot of individuals and going into businesses, and people on Mondays were just, I can't believe I have to do this. I'm going through this again and again. And so I think that there's definitely a huge amount of regaining that happiness, contentment, fulfillment, whatever you want to label it as, within your work. And that might mean you have to change completely, or that might mean you have to change parts of yourself, or make a few tweaks along the way.
Yeah, and actually that's interesting about you saying, you know, that might mean you have to change completely. I imagine I certainly during lockdown have sort of questioned what I'm doing, questioned my career, questioned my personal life, questioned everything, to be honest, because there's just been so much time to think about things, which I found quite a challenge, I have to admit.
Mm-hmm.
So have you found that this lockdown, or whatever the situation that we're in at the moment, has impacted your coaching? Has it brought up a lot more people who are suddenly sort of not sure where to go and been contacting you?
Yes, I mean, it's interesting. I think it's affected my business, and it's affected me quite, you know, no surprises there, right? In terms of the business side of things, I mean, all of the talks and the workshops I was going in to run in-house with companies, that just fell off a cliff, you know, and I do things virtually, but it's not the same, you know. I'm quite sort of hands-on with workshops, and so like you found with Pommel and Need, you just can't do that at the moment. But when it comes to one-on-one coaching, that's been really interesting. I think a lot of people have had all this time on their hands, or at least more time and more thinking space to really consider what they want. And for a lot of people I know who are on furlough, and for a lot of people who have unfortunately been made redundant or potentially fear they're facing that, they're really thinking, well, hang on a minute, this is a great opportunity to sit down, take stock, and consider, what do I want, not just in the 6 months or in the next year, when hopefully we will be over this and through this, but what's the longer term? What's the sort of, not necessarily 5 or 10-year plan, but what do I really want later on down the track? And actually, I'm not really enjoying what I'm doing now, or what I'm doing now is not going to get me there. So that's been really interesting. There's been a lot more, I think, inquiries, clients talking about that now than there was this time last year, 6 months ago, definitely.
Yeah, more awareness of
of
actually being able to make positive changes. I think I certainly feel that sometimes we sort of pick a path in life, and we're sort of expected to go down that route, and you invest so much time in that route that then there's a fear maybe to actually admit that it's not the right route for you. But it's never too late to change. I mean, that's the thing. You can, whatever age, whoever you are, I think it's just been about being a little bit brave, and just maybe sort of accepting that change, embracing that change. And so as me, the little me, if I decided I wanted to go into coaching, have some coaching, which sounds pretty cool, how would I go about it? How would I sort of start my journey into kind of getting some coaching?
Well, I think, and yeah, everything you said, absolutely, yes. We often are steered down a certain path that we don't quite fit, or isn't quite right for us. So if you're feeling that, or as you say, you just need some coaching for any area of your life, I think the first and foremost thing is to really remember that coaching is right for everyone at the right time and with the right coach. So if you're feeling ready and think this is the time for coaching, great, you want to go and find the right coach. And there's lots of, you know, coaching directories there, and you might want to really consider, at the moment it's all being done online or via phone, but if you're considering investing in this in the long term, you might want to consider if you want to actually meet with your coach when we're through lockdown, and so that might, maybe you want to consider more of a local coach. I mean, I work with people all over the world because of the wonders of technology, but I also do meet people face to face when we're allowed, hopefully very soon. And I think what's really key is knowing, getting to know your coach. So asking them, you know, are they qualified, who they qualified with? And I'm not suggesting you go and be an expert on all the qualifications, but that's really, really important, because I mean, I went through 4 years of coaching, personal development coaching and small business coaching, and then did lots of continual professional days as well in terms of resilience, etc., etc. So it is important that whoever you choose to work with is qualified and has had that sound training. And that could be with somewhere like the Coaching Academy who I trained with. And I think my sort of top tip is, if you're looking for a coach, have a Google, but also ask friends, family, people you know, and say, have you ever used a coach? Would you recommend anyone? Because whoever they've worked with, and if you like your friend and love your family, chances are you're going to probably get on quite well with that coach. So ask for referrals and speak to several coaches before you make a decision. So have, and you know, all coaches should, I hope, give you a bit of time, whether it's 15 minutes, half an hour. I mean, for example, I spent an hour with all my potential clients for them to say, yes, coaching is right for me. Yes, Kate, you're the right coach. And for me to go, yes, I think I can really help you.
Yeah, it sounds like it needs to be a partnership. So you kind of need to know that it's the right partnership, that you're going to work well together, which is you know, amazing. And in terms of, I suppose, if we look at self-care in a sort of general sense, how have you been finding lockdown? Has there been any kind of struggles or anything that for a self-care that you've found really helpful? I mean, how you personally as Kate, how have you been finding it?
Yeah, do you know what, up until about 2 weeks ago, I thought I was doing really well, to be honest. I was like, I'm loving this. I'm not the biggest fan of public transport, I have to admit. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. I can speak to loads of people, and I'm getting to speak to loads of potential clients. This is wonderful. And I actually wrote a blog post about this fairly recently, that suddenly I almost hit the lockdown wall, as it were. And I just, the best way I can describe it is I just felt really heavy and drained, but I couldn't find the cause or the reason. I was doing all the things that I normally do, but I had let a few things slip. So I really took stock, and I quite like to have a bit of a structured routine, especially in the morning. I'm a very annoying morning person, I have to admit. I have to get up and just exit the building and go and work off some energy and just deal with myself before I interact with people, because they just come across a bit too much. But even that, which I really relish that time in the morning. I really relish doing some yoga, doing some stretches. This is maybe why I've got some lower back problems, because I haven't been doing some stretches, and just taking some time. I've been trying to meditate a bit more and do exercise. And I realized that I'd let that slip quite a bit. So that self-care that had been quite ingrained in my daily routine had gone. And I was really feeling the effects of that quite emotionally.
So the routine. So you feel like for you, it helps to have a sort of set routine and I suppose for the day you kind of know what you're doing.
Absolutely. And then I think the other part of it is this lack of contact with people. And this is fantastic. I mean, having video calls, and eventually managed to get my parents to A, buy an iPad, and B, managed to get them to FaceTime, which took us about 3 hours. And it was just this incredible feat we got over. And to see them, it was really emotional. And I had to come off it and have a bit of I had a bit of a cry, I had a bit of a moment. But this inability to, and this is going to sound a little bit weird, but touch people. And something that I think everyone's suffering from now is something called skin hunger, which again sounds a bit weird and a little bit kinky. But we have tribes in our life, groups of people, our friends, our family, our work colleagues, our socializing. And you may be living with your family or your partner or housemate or pet, but for a lot of people that's not enough. And we're really missing, those hugs with friends, or even the corporate handshake. Humans, we're tribal, and we bond through touch, and we're losing that. And that was when I thought, okay, that might be something I'm really struggling with at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I find that I've got a bit of anxiety, obviously, about not seeing people, but I've also got anxiety about when we do see people, because then I'm like, how close can I get to you? And I sort of feel, this sense of, I want to see people, but I don't at the same time, because I'm a bit scared about it. So it's this real kind of tug of war feeling of sort of, I'm not sure if I do want the lockdown to sort of ease, because I'm still a bit scared about seeing people, but at the same time, I desperately miss people. So it's a real conflict, sort of.
It's a real
emotion.
tough one, and yeah, my birthday's this week, and I was thinking, oh, shall I go back home to where my parents are? But that means taking, a train, a tube, and yet another train, and they are, touching wood, fit, healthy, hale and hearty, but they are in what is classified the danger zone. And it's really, really tough. I share that anxiety with you, because we don't really know what to do and what the upshot is of our actions. And I think a lot of people, I think probably the majority of people are feeling that or experiencing that at the moment. And I don't have any answers for that, and I wish there were some. So if anyone knows, please leave in the comments.
Yeah, well, no, it's good to talk, because obviously it's things that we're all going through. And I think as well, for me, I've struggled with the fact that some people seem to be loving lockdown, other people obviously not so much. But I think it's just good to say exactly how you're feeling, whether it is that you're loving lockdown, because I think it's just good to just keep that kind of flow of conversation going, because that's all we can do at the moment. And until things start to properly ease, we've got to just kind of embrace what we can do to help each other. And I think this kind of talking and being aware that some people may be struggling more than others is really useful. And talking about struggles, can I just ask you to just tell us a little bit about the charity that you nominated? Because I've never actually heard of this charity until you.
Absolutely, I think.
It's just coming up on the screen.
Oh yeah, thank you and thank you so much for allowing me to nominate CALM. So CALM is short for the Campaign Against Living Miserably, and it is Men's Health Awareness Week this week, and I chose a men's mental health charity because, for several reasons, and there's quite a lot of men who are very close to me in my life, and a lot of men who I work with coaching and specifically on the well-being side, who really struggle to open up about their mental health, whether that's good, poor, or whatever. And CALM really focuses on poor mental health. And I think that's really important to make that distinction. We all have mental health, just like we have physical health and dental health. And sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not so great. And I'm coming across, the more I go into the well-being, the wonderful world of well-being, that men are not being served particularly well when it comes to their mental health. And I think there's a few reasons for that. They might feel a bit ashamed that they can't open up about it. They might not know how to do that or who to go to. They might feel that they're judged. And some of the therapies that we have are fantastic, but maybe they're not necessarily engineered towards men's needs. Men are much less likely to, go out and try and get talking therapy, for example, that, they again, myriad of reasons. And I'm not a man, so I'm not talking from a male point of view here. This is just my observations and what I found out. And I think that at the moment we are facing a bit of a mental health crisis, and that's only going to increase the more with lockdown. And I think, to your point, yes, it's absolutely fine to be okay with lockdown and to quite enjoy it. I was, but I think we're really going to find a bit of a spike in poor mental health, and I think that will affect men. And CALM is just fantastic. They're there to help, support, but they're focused on mental health for men. So if you are a guy and you're watching this, or if you know of someone who is struggling, then please do reach out to them, because they're just fantastic. And if you want to, as you said at the beginning, give a few pennies, give a few pounds, then they'll be really, really beneficial.
Yeah, no, it's such an important charity, especially as you said at the moment, because I think mental health is really paramount at the moment. We're all struggling maybe a wee bit more than we would normally be. So thank you, Kate, and thank you so much for all the discussion and information on coaching. If anyone has a question for Kate about coaching, then pop it in the comments box, because we will we're about to move on to the demonstration, the little massage demonstration, but Kate will join us again at the end to talk through any questions that you may have. So thank you so much, Kate. It's been really insightful.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to now, because I am so good at this, have Claire back.
It's not gin, I swear.
And I will pop you in the background to do the demo along with us.
Thank you so
Kate,
much.
if that's all right. Lovely.
Great.
So, and I will.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Kate, for that was really insightful. And if anyone wants to donate, obviously do. But if you can't, please do retweet and share and amplify the causes, because that means a lot to people as well when they can be a bit more vocal on social media and when they feel like people are actually taking note of what they're saying. So we're going to move on to Kate's chosen area for the self-massage, which is the lower back. And I know this is something that affects a lot of people, whether you're sitting down a lot or whether it's, something like a chronic pain or an old injury that you might have. So we're going to demonstrate that they're really easy to do. You don't need anything. You don't need any equipment. You don't need any oil. These are quite simple massage and stretching techniques that hopefully will help to ease a bit of the tension in the lower back. So the first one we're going to look at is the seated hip flexor stretch, which is a really nice way to extend through the lower back by easing out tension in the hips. So often when you are sitting for a long time, your hips are quite crunched up, the hip flexors become shortened and tight, and that has a triggering effect on the lower back. So as you can see, Lucinda is sitting at the front of the chair with your feet flat on the ground. And then you can use your arms down by your side and grip onto the side of the chair. While you're going through these massage techniques, remember to breathe. It's really important to keep your breathing nice and deep and relaxed. So the first thing you're going to do is take one of your legs and drop that leg behind you under the chair with the toe towards the ground. And as you're doing that, you are moving towards the edge of the chair, towards the front, coming up off and using your arms to support you. And you should already feel a nice stretch into the groin and the hip flexor area. So this is essentially a lunge, but without any impact on the knee. And you can push this as far as feels comfortable for you and hold it for about 20 to 30 seconds. And when you've done that, come back into the seated position and you repeat on the opposite side. So take the leg right behind you, place the toes on the ground, and then use your hands to support you as you come up off the chair. And you should feel a nice deep stretch down through the hip flexors. And again, as with everything, just listen to your own body. If it feels uncomfortable or painful, ease off. So what you want to do is push towards the threshold, so you're working through tightness, but not towards a place of pain. And this is something that you can do 2 or 3 times, as much as feels right for you. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the outer hip and the glute stretch. So we're going to work at lengthening through the outer hips and into the 3 major muscles in the glutes. So you start by swiveling away from your desk or your table if you're at a desk or table. So you want to have a nice bit of room in front of you. Then, as Lucinda is showing, you're sitting upright in the chair, keeping your head and your neck aligned. Then cross one ankle over the opposite knee and flex the foot. So you're activating the muscles through the lower leg. And this is really important as it helps to protect the knee joint. Now, you might already feel a bit of a stretch down through the hip and into the glutes. If you're not feeling anything at this point, you can start to hinge forward at the waist. And you can lean right into that hip. And again, hold this for about 20 to 30 seconds. Now, with this, you can lean as far forward as you like. You can come back, you can repeat it a couple of times, and it's a really nice way to loosen out the glutes. So we're going to stay on this side for now. We're going to look at a seated QL stretch. So the QL is the quadratus lumborum. So what you want to do is keep that ankle crossed over the opposite knee. And then with the other arm, reach right up into the air and then stretch over towards the toes. And what this does, it helps to lengthen through the side of the body, down into the glutes and the hip as well. But it helps to ease out any tension you might be feeling in the lumbar spine. So you should feel a nice deep stretch here. And if you're not feeling anything, try to push a little bit further, and you can use your breath to help with this. So taking a really nice inhalation, and then on the exhalation, just see if you can push a little bit further. Okay, so we're going to come back to the outer hip and glute stretch on the other side. So as you can see, Lucinda is just repositioning for visual guidance. So take the other leg, bring the ankle up and across the knee, and again, try to flex the foot so you're protecting the knee joint. And it's totally normal for one side of the body to feel different to the other because we're not symmetrical. So you might be feeling a little bit more or less of a stretch on one side. So with the foot flexed, you want to lean forward, hinge from the waist, and again, try to take a nice deep breath in, and on the exhalation, see if you can push forward just a little bit more. And hold it for about 20 to 30 seconds or longer if you can, because giving that amount of time allows the muscles to get used to being a little bit longer. They're used to being contracted and tense. You want to give them a chance to adapt to being slightly longer. And then slowly and gently come up, just observing the integrity of your spine. So we don't want any jerking or sudden movements. And we'll work on the same leg to go into the QL stretch, the quadratus lumborum. So with the same leg crossed over the opposite knee, reach up into the air, nice and high, feel a stretch through the side of the body, and then reach across in a diagonal towards the toes. And take a nice deep breath in, and on your exhalation, see if you can push just a little bit further so you get a nice stretch down into the lower back. Okay, lovely. And then again, slowly come up, and you can relax the legs and give yourself a little bit of a shake or a wobble or a few breaths or a creative interpretive dance, as Lucinda's showing us. So we're going to come into a seated twist now, which is really nice to work all the way through the spine. So you're sort of corkscrewing along the spine. You're working from the lumbar up into the thoracic. So again, perch close to the edge of the chair, nice straight back with your head over your neck, and think about actively engaging your abs. So you're trying to engage the lower belly. I know a lot of us have maybe had a little bit too much to eat or drink during lockdown, not being as active as normal. So engage what abs are there. And this is really important to help activate or to help protect your lower back. So bring your arms up towards your chest and cross them over. Take a nice deep breath in, and on the exhalation, twist over to one side. And again, you can hold this for 20 to 30 seconds. Keep breathing, and you might find that with your exhalations, you can twist a little bit further. Try not to strain the neck. Try to keep the movement located in the back rather than just using your neck. And if you wanted to add a little bit of extra resistance, you can use one arm. So you can hold on to the bottom of the chair and then use the other arm at the back of the chair, and just gripping on and giving yourself a bit of extra resistance as you twist. Try not to hunch up your shoulders when you're doing this. It's really easy to sort of want to do this as you're twisting, but you want to keep everything as relaxed as possible. And then slowly come back to the center. And we'll do the same on the other side. So bring your arms up to the chest and take a nice deep breath in. And on the exhalation, twist around to the other side. Lovely. And then again, if you want to add a bit of extra resistance, you can use the arms to swivel yourself around a little bit more. Fantastic. And slowly come back to the center and take a nice deep breath. And we will just move into a very brief self-massage section. So I appreciate that self-massage isn't the same as someone else doing it for you, but with what's going on, we work with what we've got. So we're going to start with just doing a little bit of effleurage, basically, which is where you get the muscles nice and warmed up. So use the flats of your hands either side of the spine to rub from the mid-back right down to the sacrum, through the sides of the back and into the glutes. And this is a good way to get some blood circulating around the area. If you've been sat for a long time, and if the muscles are stagnant, they can become quite tight, and you want to get things loosened up before you work into any sort of deeper massage techniques. So you can be fairly vigorous with this. Again, listen to your own body. Of course, avoid the bony processes of the spine. You want to just be working into the soft tissue around the spine and get things moving. Okay, so now starting with one side of the back, you place your hand in a fist position. So you use your forefinger knuckle and you work up and down the muscles along the side of the spine using a slow but firm gliding motion. And as you can see, Lucinda is leaning forward slightly. So this is good to just slightly intensify the pressure and work a little bit more deeply. And as always, avoid the actual spine. Just work into those muscles that run along the side of the spine, which can become really tight. These are the erector spinae, which are basically supporting us all the time. Anytime we're sitting up or standing, those muscles are activated, so they can become really tight. Okay, lovely. And then we'll do the same on the other side. So take the hand into a fist position, and then using the knuckle, you just work along the side of the spine. And if it's uncomfortable at any point to work with the knuckles and the fist, you can resort to using the thumbs, but we always try to be careful with the thumbs. You've got a very delicate joint, the joint at the bottom of the thumb here, and overusing it can cause damage. So if you can use the strength of your hand and the knuckles, it's advisable. Okay, so now we are going to take the hands in a fist position again and use all four knuckles to work in a circular motion into the fleshy area around the glutes, which again can become really tight. If you find any areas that are particularly tense, you might feel what we call a knot, which is a bit of redundant or fibrous muscle tissue. You can just hold on that for a few seconds longer and press into it, and that can help to release some of the tension that you might be feeling in particular areas. And I know I've got plenty of knots in my shoulders and my lower back, so it's nice it's a sort of pleasurable pain, we call it. Okay, and moving on to the other side, we'll do the same thing on the other side. So take your hand in a fist and use all four knuckles, and you work all the way down into the glute and try and get things nice and loose. I know a lot of people are at home doing their home workouts and doing their 100 squat challenge and that kind of thing, so you might be feeling it a little bit if you've been doing something like that. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is what we call a caterpillar. So what you want to do is locate the lower ribs. So it's actually a lot lower than we think. Your lower ribs, there's not much space between your hip joint and your lower ribs. So you want to work below those areas. And you take your knuckle and you want to create a stepping or a caterpillar-like movement working through that area. And again, avoid the hip bones, avoid the actual ribs, and avoid the spine. You're just working into that section of the lower back. Lovely. And then we'll take it to the other side. So again, you use that knuckle, and like a little caterpillar, you just work through any areas of tension. It's like little worm going through the soil. So it should feel firm, but again, not painful, and try to keep breathing nice and deeply. It's very important to make sure that we're getting plenty of deep breaths into these massages. And we always, when we do massage, we encourage people to remember to breathe deeply, partly to keep you relaxed, but also partly because you want to encourage as much oxygen into the body as possible. You want to have really healthy oxygenated blood flowing through the muscles. Okay, so the final little massage technique we're working on is taking your thumbs or your first two fingers, and you want to use small circular motions and work right down through the lumbar vertebrae into the sacrum. So you're just working down through the spine, as Lucinda's showing. If you're doing this at home, and if you have something like a tennis ball, we've demonstrated this in one of our working from home videos. It's episode 7. But you can take a tennis ball and you can either lean against a wall or you can lie on the floor, depending on how much pressure you'd like and what's comfortable for you. And this is a good way to be able to relax the arms and the shoulders and get that same sensation of the ball working through any tense muscles along the side of the lumbar vertebrae. Okay, so I think Lucinda and Kate, and hopefully yourselves at home, should be nice and loose now. If you have any questions about any of the demonstrations, please feel free to either send us a message or leave a comment or an email. And like I said, we've got a working from home series. We've got 12 videos which go through massage techniques that focus on different areas of the body and are really easy to do and can all be done without any equipment or oil. So please feel free to have a look at those as well.
Yeah.
All right, Lucinda, how are you feeling?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling a lot more relaxed, I have to say.
Oh, good.
No,
Kate, how are you?
Feeling, Kate?
It was a very good job I was muted, because I didn't realise quite how tight I was in certain areas, and there was some very strange noises and awful words coming out my mouth. It's amazing.
Totally normal.
But wow.
Were there any areas that you struggled with to understand what we were trying to say to do? Or
I think not struggled with, just a bit of clarification on the very first one, when we're doing that lunge, the seated lunge, and that was incredible because I've also got quite dodgy knees as well. I'm just a bit broken, I think. But that felt amazing. But I thought when you're lunging, the foot and leg that's going back underneath the chair, should our knee be touching the floor?
No, so you want to keep it up
Okay.
off the floor. If you did want to increase it, it's a really handy one for people who do have knee issues because they don't like to put pressure on the knee. If you wanted to, you could put a couple of cushions or something so that if you wanted to drop down further, you'd have a bit of support. But ideally, keep your knee up off the floor and you're using the other leg to stabilize yourself as you move forward.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was really, really helpful. And when people are going back into work, what a great sort of little at desk strategy to help you through the day.
Everyone's going to be lunging.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think, and especially now, we've kind of lost that wonderful ebb and flow of office life where you go up and chat with a colleague or go out and get coffee. And what a great way to just go, every hour I'll do my stretch routine. Fantastic.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think especially in lockdown, there's just a little bit of lightning there, I just saw. So if it suddenly starts crashing around us,
very
people will just have
dramatic
to
part.
try very hard to listen. There's the thunder. Can you hear that? I don't know.
Oh, wow, I can hear it. Yeah.
Can you hear it? So when I've been speaking to Andy, actually, so my partner, he works from home and at the moment, and he says he really misses that kind of the morning commute, the getting up and getting a coffee, the moving about. And it is just so easy now, I think, when we're all working from home, just to stay at your desk and not move for hours. So I think it's really useful with these sort of stretches and massage techniques that we've shown that can be done seated, just to kind of almost add it into your schedule. Set yourself a reminder to move, because I think now more than ever it's important to remember to move, because there's not the same excuses anymore to kind of get up, have a chat with someone,
go out for lunch, go for a coffee, go to a meeting room. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. And when I give my working from home talk, sort of well-being whilst working from home, I encourage people to go on a pretend commute, because I think that really helps. We kind of need our commute, as much as we hate our commute, but we almost need it to wind up to our working day and working life, and also wind down. And as long as you're, wearing masks or doing it at a physically safe distance, I think that really helps your mindset, gets in a bit of physical stretch the legs, as it were, and helps you get into work mode or out of work mode. And I think just these sort of stretches will only add to that benefit as well. So thank you very, very much. I
love the idea of a pretend commute. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm
you could have your coffee to go, avoid eye contact with anyone, adhere to tube etiquette. Hide behind an Evening Standard.
Get a metro.
Elbow people.
So just to finish off, girls, because I know we're kind of starting to run out of time, but we've had a question for Kate. So
right.
Andy has asked if he wants to go ahead with coaching, how many sessions for an individual would you normally recommend?
I think you look at what the individual wants to achieve, and the pace that they want to work at. Now, I would tend to say that having a session every 2 to 3 weeks is ideal, and you might want between 6 and 9 sessions. If you find that you're constantly coming back to coaching, you might want to reassess what you're working on and potentially who you're working with. So this is, I suppose, another big difference between coaching and counselling. Somebody will probably be with their counsellor for quite a long period of time, whereas coaching is really the intervention to use when you're wanting to take action, and at the end of that coaching journey of, say, 6-7 sessions, you've got your toolkit, as it were, to go ahead and carry on the good work and the good habits that you've created with your coach. Now, saying that, I work with small businesses, and they tend to have a year's worth of coaching, for example, or they'll bring me in for an intensive session, and then 6 months later they'll bring me back again, depending on the concern. But I think that's slightly different to an individual. I hope that answers your question, Andy.
Yeah, no, that does. I hope that answers your question, Andy. So yes, I think it does. Thank you.
Leave us a comment.
Yes. Well, I was going to say, as you can see, little Kate's email address is flying across the bottom. Not that Kate's little, the email address is going down at the bottom. coach@kate-bishop.co.uk. So if you have any questions regarding live coaching and where and how you get involved with that, give her an email. If you want to email us as well, we can forward a question on to Kate. And what is left to say is just thank you so much for being with us, Kate. It's been absolutely fantastic. We really appreciate it, your time, and it's been really insightful just to find out a bit more about coaching and how it can help our general kind of well-being and mental health, and how it could be something part of our lives. So it's really, really been a good, useful chat. So thank you very much. And also thank you so much for recommending the charity. As we've said, a third of any of the donations, if anyone's donated, will go to Calm, which is a men's mental health charity. So thank you so much for everyone who's donated and listened to our first ever live stream. Claire, do you have anything else to say before we...
And likewise, thank you very much, Kate. That was really, really interesting. And thank you for being part of this inaugural live stream. And we will be back in 2 weeks, which will be the 1st of July. where's the time
Wow.
going with our next live stream. So please keep an eye out for that. And if anyone isn't able to wasn't able to watch the whole thing live today, it'll all be available to catch up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and any other of these internet places that people go to.
YouTube.
Very tech savvy.
And finally, a last little thing. If people are struggling with any problems, pains, we do have a working from home 12 episodes called Working from Home. There goes the old thunder again. It's really starting to go crazy out there.
Renting dramatically.
my dog is barking because it's all going on. I'm sorry if you hear it a while. But yes, it's a working from home series. It's on our YouTube. It's all completely free, and we go through basically all areas of the body. So if you've got a problem with your neck, shoulders, your arms, or anything like that, they're just little tips that might help in this situation when at the moment we can't unfortunately offer you physical therapies at the moment. So yeah, hopefully that'll help. And thank you very much. And that's it.
Thank you so much. I feel so honoured to have been part of this, and I just love what you do. I've used your videos over the last few weeks to help. So thank you very, very much indeed.
Oh,
adios, amigos.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Take care. Yeah, everybody stay safe.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.